Welcome to Hello You. Yes, you. The podcast that opens up the full spectrum of mental health like never before. We're not here to skim the surface. We go deep into every corner of the human experience. From international athletes to high-powered CEOs, everyday heroes to global change makers. Our guests bring raw, real, and radically different perspective on what mental health really means. This is your space, a place for truth, stories, and connection. Whether you're thriving, surviving, or somewhere in between, we're here to remind you you're not alone. So pull up a chair, take a breath, and let's talk about the stuff that matters. Welcome to the most open, honest, and inclusive mental health conversation in the world. I'm your host, Dan Darwin, and welcome to Hello You. Hello You would like to thank our title sponsors, the Loss Prevention Department at Next PLC. Hello and welcome to another episode of Hello You. And today, my guest is Shazia Ali. Shazia, nice to meet you.
Lovely to meet you too.
Would you like to tell my listeners, viewers, a little bit about yourself?
I'm a mother. I'm a lawyer. I built a business up from scratch, and my aim has always been to help the community and build something which creates a legacy for others. But my priority has always been a mother and helping the community. And we've been running Scarsdale Solicitors for many years now. And we've grown into something that I could never have dreamt of, to be honest. So, yeah, that's me in a nutshell. A mother first, a lawyer second.
Okay. So let's go back in time. So where did this all start for you?
So we were raised in a community where there was lots of racism, lots of... my parents had migrated to the UK. My father was qualified as an engineer but couldn't get an engineering position in the UK. So he started working in the mines, and unfortunately that made him deaf. So he was trying to raise a family and doing loads of odd jobs, working in the mines, and then trying to pay the mortgage off in the property, supporting his housewife. And we're a large family. There were 7 of us at the time.
Cool.
We do not come from wealth, and like business ownership was not normal. I didn't have people saying to me, oh, go build a business, go build a company, or showing me what that looked like. I just always had a vision that I would do more than what was expected of me. And I always felt like there's a bigger purpose. And I'm not just here just to do a job. I'm here to serve a larger community. And I think coming from like a humble beginning, that really helped. Being grateful and having gratitude for where I am from and where I've come has been like the foundation of how Scarsdale's has been created and where we are right now.
Okay, so what area was it you grew up in? Because I can hear
Manchester.
That accent. Yeah. Okay.
Manchester. So I was raised in Manchester. I studied in Sheffield. Then I did my BBC course, which is a bar vocational course. I did that in the University of Northumbria. And as soon as I qualified educationally, I sent out 143 CVs, and the first company that came back to me, they offered me a position on the spot, which was fantastic. And that's where the career in law began, really. Back in, 2001 now. It's been a long time.
Time goes really fast, doesn't it? So
absolutely, yeah. So
growing up in Manchester, you said you didn't come from wealth. There are a lot of siblings there as well. What was the dream then, though? You said that you were looking for that. You had that ambition to be more than what was there.
So, as crazy as this sounds, and I was the student that if somebody told me that I wasn't going to do it, I wasn't going to do well, then I'd make sure that I did well in that particular subject. One prime example was actually French, completely irrelevant to my life now, but French GCSEs. My teacher actually said, oh, I don't think you're going to do well, but don't worry, I'll give you positive feedback. And And what I did was I actually found a job. I worked, I paid for a private tutor. And this is, by the way, in my teens, back in a community where like having a tutor was like a luxury. I found a restaurant job. I worked in that restaurant to support my tuition because I wanted to prove a point. So I've always kind of been ambitious. You know, I don't like being told, oh, you can't do this, or just because it's just the way we were. You know, back then we didn't have we had the support, but we didn't have the encouragement, oh, you need to do exceptionally well. If anybody told me, look, you're not going to do well, I made sure I did well, if that makes sense.
Yeah, so that negativity driving you onto a positive.
Absolutely, yeah. That's just me in a nutshell. That's me now.
Okay. So you're always facing adversity, it looks like, and that seems to drive you forward?
Definitely, especially in like a field like law. You know, with law, it's predominantly a male-dominated field, and usually it's surrounded by a stereotypical view would be middle class, middle-aged person dealing with it, not Asian women, not something that is ever encouraged in our community. So I really wanted to step out the norm and do something different, which is what I did. I stepped out where I felt underestimated. I felt like, okay, well, I'll work harder to take myself seriously. And sometimes the challenge wasn't direct discrimination. It was more quieter than that. But the internal pressure, like, of my capability, like, it kind of drove me to wanting to do more. Even now, like, you do sometimes get an experience in court where you feel, okay, do you know, is that because I'm female? Is that because I'm Asian? You know, what's going on? However, I don't let that deter me. I'm very firm in my approach in court and confident, and I'm very focused on getting results for my clients and making sure that I can help as many people as I possibly can. And there are moments where I question myself, where I wonder, right, you know, what I'm doing, is it enough? But I always then think, okay, do you know, if it's not for this, then, you know, a different result will be achieved. So I kind of put myself, what if this, what if that, and then think, okay, do you know what? I'm doing the right thing. I'm doing the right thing for everyone around me. So I realized that in law, you don't need permission to be there. You know, I think I'm past caring of trying to fit into spaces which were not built for me. I'm just focused on now building something that's bigger than me, but helping so many more people that I've ever, you know, I could never have hoped for. And that's the goal for Scarsdale's, to help as many people as we possibly can.
I think, yeah, it is one of those professions, law, where it's almost an entitlement for some people to practice law. And I think you come from a certain family, a certain background, then that's where they push you. That's where you're pushed. And I certainly know from my own experiences, my stepfather, he was sent off to boarding school with his brother, and his mum and dad, or stepdad, said to them both, you're going to study law. And that was it. And my stepdad was like, I don't want to, just because we come from this background, I don't want to. But so I do get that. That's the entitlement. And it's not the only profession that it's like, but I do get that. I want to delve back a little bit further back. Okay. And you're on this journey. You've already shown academically that you're willing to go up against anyone when they tell you you're not good at it. You're going to push back and say, actually, maybe I'm not, but I'm going to get better and I'm going to show you wrong. How was that balanced against where you were growing up, in terms of the people you're growing up alongside, the other communities within Manchester, and obviously with the Asian ethnicity? How was that all balanced? How did that all play out? Because it sounds like it was quite a melting pot.
Yes. Honestly, I do not think balance exists in the perfect way people describe it. I think the situation is, if I focus more on like trying to balance things, I probably wouldn't have achieved what I've achieved so far. And I have spent a long time carrying a lot with me very quietly, being present at home, keeping everything moving, and somehow kind of doing things effortlessly. It wasn't the norm for me. I had to really push. I'll give you an example, like my sister. Oh my God, she's amazing. She's also a lawyer, but she's the kind of person that studies the night before and she still excels. Whereas I'm the kind of person that had to spend a lot of time revising for my exams and putting in the effort, and just going at 100 miles per hour. Basically, anyone that meets me now, they're like, "Oh, Shazia, do you ever slow down?" And absolutely, I don't. I don't think there's really a proper balance in a perfect way. I just don't think that exists.
No, I think it's unique, isn't it? It's everybody, it's a different balance. Don't you just hate those people that don't have to study and they just turn up to exams and can do it
Oh my
one
word,
night
yes,
before?
I do envy them. But my son's doing his GCSEs at the moment, and his mindset is so positive. He's fantastic. He walks out of every exam and says, "Mom, it was absolutely amazing. It was really good." And I love the fact that he's so positive, and I feel that because we are the way we are around him, and he's seeing me at my worst, struggling to kind of create a business and a family life, and he's seeing the struggles that I've encountered working all day, all night, taking calls in the middle of the night. He's seen all of that, and it's kind of made him more focused. He's very, very positive, and I'm hoping he's learned that from me. Like, no matter what, stay positive, be ambitious, be focused, and you know what? Things will always work out. Things always do, and that's been my driving, for focus, staying positive and having that mindset. Really.
Okay, so turning that round, you said earlier about the discrimination you faced growing up. And I'm sure Manchester was probably a tough place to grow up as an Asian female.
Yeah.
What sort of things did you face, firstly? That's what I would like to know. What sort of discrimination are we talking here?
So I remember, it's like you have these images, like if anybody asks me, of course, I have an image where my mother's pushing a buggy, and there were we're all very young. There's only like a couple of years difference between all of us. But I remember my mom pushing, and I'm holding the buggy, and there were beer cans being thrown at us on the road on our way to primary school. Now I think, if I remember, I was only around 6 or 7, but there were beer cans being thrown, and my mum didn't speak fluent English. So when that happened, instead of they were swearing the people in the vehicle. I don't know who it was, and I don't remember their faces or anything. I just remember a car driving past us, beer cans being thrown, verbal abuse, and my mum swearing in broken English in return, in retaliation. But bless her, she couldn't pronounce the words. And I remember that distinct. But I've also, in fairness, though, it wasn't just as a child. Prior to COVID, I was doing a lot of road running, and even then, when I was running with my personal trainer locally in Haywood, we were actually running on the road, and I had the same experience. I had a beer can thrown at me, and somebody spit out the vehicle. So it's discrimination is there. It's always going to be there, I think, and it is how you deal with it that makes the difference. It's unfortunate, but most of us do experience discrimination.
Yeah, and I think that's one of the hardest things for me to understand, having not experienced the discrimination like that. In terms of you as a child, and you're witnessing that, and your mum trying to retaliate, bless her, in that way, how does that make you feel at that time, seeing that? How did you feel inside yourself? What did it do in terms of your emotions, mentally, physically?
I can't remember how I felt at the time, but when I think about it right now, it makes me emotional. I think, oh my God, my mum went through so much. She raised us, all 7 of us. Sorry.
No, it's fine.
She struggled. There are 7 of us, and we weren't like a well-off family. Sorry, I've never broken down on podcast, so apologies. I think this,
It's not a
I
problem
hope
at
it's
all.
okay, because obviously we're having a, conversation, but I can't imagine what she went through, because she was trying to protect us all from this abuse, and it was always happening. But on the way to primary school, not so much in high school, but it was always on the way to primary school that it was horrendous. And that was like early 1980s. That was one specific incident, but there was a lot more like verbal abuse at the gates of the primary school, like, other parents as well, It wasn't like nowadays, like when I've been dropping my children off, all the parents get together, they have a mingle, we swap numbers, exchange notes at school activities. But back then, there was none of that. And I think perhaps because my mother didn't speak fluent English, but there was we experienced a lot of racism at the doorstep of the primary school, as well at the gates and on the way to school, on the way back, so it was quite, I think I feel for my mum.
And look, our love for our parents never stops. I think all that happens is we become more aware the stuff they do for us and the things they put us through and the things they do for us and put themselves through for us. And I think when you become a parent, I think you notice those sacrifices more because you now do it. But, being emotional is completely fine. It's the way humans express, and there's no need to apologise. Humans hide behind emotions. We apologise for them. We should be embracing them.
Absolutely. I totally agree.
And I think it shows as well the impact that those incidents had on you subconsciously, because they're still there and it's still happening, which is unbelievable in the day and age that we're in, that we are still having to deal with these things over and over again. Certainly, when you're out running, that's not what you expect to be happening, because that's your time for your mental health reset.
Absolutely.
Not to take more pummeling mentally and physically. So how do you think that spurs you on, though?
I've always been ambitious and driven, and even I guess those incidents just gave me courage and taught me resilience. I knew nobody's going to come and hand me an opportunity. Nobody's going to build my future for me. Stop waiting and get things done. Even now as a business owner, I tell my staff all the time, don't wait for things to happen. You take the action and it will happen. Take the relevant step, and don't be reactive, be proactive, and you'll see a difference in the way you approach things. And at the time as a child, obviously I was scared. I'm imagining that I was scared because I still have those vivid images that play when somebody asks me about, what did you experience as a child? I still see those images, but I feel that I don't think I'm worried about getting things wrong anymore, or doubting myself. I feel like all these experiences have just made me stronger and more determined to create an environment where people are valued for who they are, not where they're from. And, we've got a multicultural practice. We've got staff from, Pakistan, we've got staff from Nigeria, we've got staff from, British, basically. We've got British staff. We've got a great community here, and this is the type of practice that I've always believed I would create if I ever did create one, a multicultural practice where everybody can just be themselves, and we value the culture they bring with them, like their traditions, their the things that they do in their personal time. One of my staff members, she's a pastor's daughter, and she's very religious, and there's things that she does in her day that makes, that's interesting. And it does make me very proud of what I've created, to be honest with you, given the background that I was raised in. Yeah,
and you've created a community within your community.
Fantastic. I know. And I didn't realize how much I did that until actually having this conversation. It's not something that I focused on. I've always believed in everybody coming together, everybody building something together, and not just, it's not one race. We're all here to be valued, to be appreciated, to make a difference. That's what my personal belief is. And I don't see the difference in race or your background, or whether, wherever you work, whatever you do, you'll be treated as an equal here. And that's what we do with all our clients. All our staff, all our clients, we prioritize their needs. And I think the most important thing is listening. We listen to, like, with a great team, we listen to them, we take on their input, and they do the exact same for the clients, which basically means we get better results because they're actually listening rather than over speaking, or, you get often lawyers just constantly talking, maybe a little bit of what I'm doing right now, but lawyers like
that's
to be
why you're
heard.
here. That's why you're here.
Yeah,
So-
well, lawyers like to be heard, but I think the great thing about us, we actually listen to the clients. We listen and we want them to be heard. So, like, I do want to be a voice for all of these individuals, like a voice, and the idea, so for Scarsdale's, is to build a bigger practice, so we can actually set up a sort of a community section where we offer pro bono consultations and legal advice for, like, victims of domestic violence and so on. Right now we're doing, consultations, free consultations, but we'd like to do it on a larger scale. So, for example, if you need a non-molestation order and if you're trying to escape violence, somebody can call and say, look, we need this and we need it now, can you help us? And then one of our staff members can get on it and lodge an emergency application in court without the person feeling like, oh, you know what, I can't pay for this, or I can't wait for legal aid to be granted, or things like that. So that's the idea of Scarsdale's, to build something better and bigger so it gives back to the community.
Yeah, and that sort of goes back to what you're saying, is that this community is really important to you from the childhood all the way through. And I think for mental health and for people that are struggling, and for humans in general, we need to connect. We need communities and like-minded people around us, and we tend to do that. And you seem to have built this safe space within a work environment, which is really lovely to see. I think listening to you, it could have been so different though, couldn't it? Could you have gone completely the other way facing that discrimination without building your resilience? Could it have sent you a different path? Do you ever imagine that?
I have an addictive personality, and I feel that if I wasn't raised in the environment I was with, in my family, I do think if I didn't have my parents, my siblings, I do feel that I could have spiraled out of control. I do definitely feel that I could have, but I've always been ambitious, so I don't like to think the negative. Yes, most of us, faced with adversities, we deal with problems differently, and I feel that yes, I could have, had it not been for my parents there, had it not been for my siblings there. My sisters have been fantastic, always saying, okay, do you know what, Shaz, you're doing this, maybe think about doing this. And, I even brainstorm with them today, like, oh, guys, what do you think of this? And what do you think of this? And they give me ideas, and we're always kind of brainstorming, what can we do to make it better? And I love that. I love the fact that I've got siblings. They're all like my best friends, so we support each other. I feel like if it was me on my own with just my parents, maybe, because of my addictive personality, of course, things could have gone pear-shaped. Absolutely. I could have just resented the world and blamed everyone, for the problems I had in my own life. But, like, I'm not about being a victim, in fairness, and I'm about creating something that's bigger than me. But the only way to do that is creating an environment where people can actually be themselves and then help the community that they're in, which is what Scarsdale's is all about.
Yeah, and so you go off through law school. What was it like doing your uni and stuff? Were you still facing the discrimination through there as well? I know you said it's happening still during COVID or wherever there.
Not so often, actually. Not so often. I had an experience when I was running before COVID, I used to do a lot of road running, and I did experience it quite a bit then, when, especially one incident, where, somebody spat out the vehicle, threw a beer can at us. But at university, not so much. I was very fortunate that I was surrounded by great housemates, because I lived in Sheffield. I was surrounded by a great bunch of friends, and it kind of got me through. And like I said, I've always had a supportive family. My other half, he's fantastic. He's always supported me throughout my journey. I've known him since I was 17, 18 years old, and he's always kind of like been a very good friend to me as well. So no racism as such in university or BBC. I think there are random episodes that happen when we're out and about, I guess, general manners when you go into a store and the door gets closed in your face, and, things like that, people jumping in the queue in front of you. But maybe that's not racism. Maybe that's just people being ignorant and not, and maybe it's not discrimination. I don't know. But I know when we were raised, when we were younger, it was definitely discrimination. But yeah, I'm very fortunate today because of the people that I have in my life.
I think it's very nice to hear you talking about community, talking about support networks. I bang on about it all the time, that humans are not built to live in isolation. Community is what we need. And it's like-minded community. I used to say to my children all the time, they'd say, these are my friends from school. And I'd always say to them, no, they're your friends because we've chose to live in a certain area. As you get older, you will find people who are like-minded, that you will be interested in the same things as you are. They're the people that are your true friends, and they're the people that you share these communities with, and you can build and build, and the community spreads and it becomes wider and you have more people attached to it. And it sounds like that is where you're at right now. You're at that central point where it's going to explode out more, and this community is going to get bigger and bigger. And for me, what you've been talking about is so positive in terms of how you've taken your life and your journey. And now I want to ask you, as a female in a male-dominated environment still, what would you say to other people coming from similar backgrounds or similar situations that want to practice law or want to move into a male-dominated environment in terms of their career? What advice would you give to these people?
I would say always step out your comfort zone. Do things that other people tell you not to do, obviously within reason, of course. There's never going to be a right time. You don't need perfect timing. You just need to figure out what you want to do and make it happen. If you wait for things to happen, they may not happen. You just have to step out and take that extra step. For me, I guess I've always worked best when I've always stepped out of my comfort zone. If I stay in my comfort zone, I will never succeed. But as soon as I do something that I'm slightly more uncomfortable with, the firm appears to get bigger and bigger, and I don't doubt myself, because now I've realized, do you know what? I've stepped out of my comfort zone, something positive, and I continue to do that. Time is priceless, and time doesn't wait for anybody. There's never going to be a perfect timing. Don't wait for things to happen. Just get movement and do things today. And no matter what people say to you, don't let that distract you from your ultimate goal. Always have a goal and make sure you're focused on that goal, and you will achieve. You will definitely achieve.
And so I've got to ask, what area of law is it that Scarsdale practices?
So we predominantly specialise in crime, which is 95% of our practice is motoring offences. We do private client as well, private crime, criminal defence, and we also do immigration. So lots of migrants don't know what their entitlements are in relation to the legal rights. So it kind of balances with the immigration also helps the crime also helps us advise people in relation to their immigration status and what they should be doing in order to help get a better outcome for themselves in relation to their immigration. So those are the two areas of law that we focus on. But we also have expertise in family law, divorce, like I said earlier, domestic violence. Prior to COVID, I had a pro bono clinic every Wednesday. I used to make myself available for the Women's Welfare Association in Rochdale, and they used to refer clients to me, and every 15 minutes I'd see a different lady or a man and dealing with domestic violence and how to leave an abusive relationship. And I would guide them and then support them through that process. So we do family law, but not as much as I'd like to be doing at the moment.
Do you think one of your key drivers is that you just want to help people more and more?
Yeah, definitely. My legacy is not how much money is my bank or how many properties we have or how big the business is. My legacy is how people remember me after I'm gone. What did I do to make a difference in other people's lives? And that's the real legacy, the amount of people that remember you when you're gone and talk about you and how positive you were in relation to helping them achieve what they needed to achieve.
Yeah, and I think listening to you, your story, where you've come from and where you are now is incredible and it's inspirational. And also to a lot of people that really do struggle to step out of their comfort zone, build that resilience. I think you are a true shining hope for that. I think what you also bring is that giving back. I think if you give back to the universe rewards you in many other ways. And I don't think it's not financial and it's not materialistic. The universe will give you other things like the happiness, the abundance and the joy. And I think is admirable to see you helping other people in that way. And where do you see that going in terms of the future for it?
As a firm, I'd like to grow and I'd like to do a lot more. Now, right now, at the moment, I make myself available, and not many CEOs do of any firms. I make myself available every single day and I offer free consultations to people that need the support. If you look at the reviews on Google, you'll see a lot of people just jump on, have a conversation with me, and they know that they do, they've been advised that, they need a solicitor, and we're very transparent. We say, look, you don't actually need a solicitor. With or without us, you're going to get this outcome. Why not save the money and just do this instead of, wasting your money and getting the same outcome? So we're very confident and with our services. And I as a CEO should, most CEOs, like I said, don't make themselves available in, throughout the day, but I make myself available for all the clients that wish to book in to ensure that they're getting the best possible advice with 20 years, 6 years of experience behind myself in law. And I can arm them with the tools to either represent themselves, or if they wish to instruct us, they can instruct us. But my goal is to actually make a difference. And hopefully I've done that so far, and I'll continue to do that on a larger scale. But that's the goal for Scarsdale's.
So in terms of yourself then and looking after yourself, and you've just said there, most CEOs won't do that because time is precious, time is short. And most of the time, the goal isn't what you have just said. Their goal is a lot different. So it doesn't always fit that agenda. But how do you keep yourself then mentally healthy, prevent that burnout, prevent all of those stresses coming on top of you when you're trying to do so much for everyone else and pouring a lot of energy into other people's cups?
How do I do it? Well, with a lot of difficulty up until recently. So I was going at 100 miles per hour, trying to do everything, grow the practice and do this myself. Thankfully, now we've got a fantastic team, which allows me to balance more and delegate more. And it allows me to focus more time on my own mental health. So we have a dog and I walk him every morning, every evening. I love him to bits, but he will not walk with a dog walker. So I had to alter my schedule, drop the children off at the bus stop early morning or preschool when they were in primary school, just to walk the dog because he refused to go out with anyone else. So my day begins with a long dog walk in the morning, a dog walk in the evening. I spend a lot of time trying to focus on how can I make things better for others as well as myself. So, I do a lot of exercise now. I've started a return to running, which I took a couple of years off after damaging my knee, but I'm now back to running and I'm hoping to achieve, I do 5 kilometers twice a week. And then I also do Pilates, reformer Pilates. I do that like 3 times a week as well. So I think without the exercise, I'd probably feel more exhausted than I am. The exercise is my stimulant. It's my energy. And when I do that, I honestly feel like I can conquer the world. And every single morning, there's always that, I wake up and it's not, oh, good gosh, I'm going into work. It's like, oh, you know what? Fantastic. I'm awake. There's gratitude, and I don't have to say it, but there's always gratitude subconsciously, because I get up to a new day. I manage to walk my dog. I manage to drop the kids off at school, the bus stop, sorry. There's always that gratitude subconsciously. So I'm just very grateful for everything I have at the moment, and that will always continue. But I think balancing that with exercise also gives you that positive mindset, and it gives you the energy to prevent you from being so tired. I can do what I do because I balance it with all the exercise that I do on a weekly basis now.
And is that the sort of advice you would give to a CEO if they came to you and said, do you know what, Shazia, I'm really struggling. I don't know how you do all of this. I'm burnt out. What is that the sort of advice you would give to them?
I would definitely say it's taken me years and years of struggle to understand that you do need to prioritize yourself. So without the exercise, without the even just walking a day, being out in nature is fantastic. It makes you feel different. If you don't make time for yourself, you're not going to be able to focus on anybody else. And, you can't serve others if you can't serve yourself.
Yeah, and I think, does it put more pressure on you knowing that there's other staff that rely on you now, though?
No, to be honest with you, it makes me feel better. It makes me feel great, because I know that I can help so many more people. It's not pressure. I just feel like I can always achieve more. So I guess lots of people work differently under pressure, but I feel that I excel when I have pressure on me. And especially when there's deadlines, like I'm a problem solver, and I work best when I'm faced with, problems, basically.
Yeah, it seems that your whole life has been built against fighting these adversities and spurring yourself on.
Absolutely. But not everybody has the kind of problems. Everybody has some sort of, childhood issues, like nobody's got a perfect life, and it's just how you deal with the issues that you've, been served with. And I think as long as you can, they make you stronger, as long as you use them to your advantage and not be a victim to the situation, you can build something so much more successful than any of us. And I think that's the focus, building something that's more than an individual, building something that's greater than one person.
So if I had to say to you, where would you be in 5 years' time? What would be your answer to that? If you had to look into that crystal ball and say, this is where I want to be in 5 years.
My focus has always been to create a pro bono department in Scarsdale where we're solely focused on doing legal issues without having to charge the client, or even thinking about a legal aid contract with the government. My focus is a division where people come and we can support them. It sounds crazy, but some people don't even know how to fill out an application, but we can have a team available where you can have a drop-in service rather than having to wait months for an appointment at a charity or Citizens Advice. Have solicitors available to be able to deal with the problems that are brought to them. If it's basic form filling service, if it's applying for a visa, if it's doing a non-molestation order in the county court, a diverse area of law, but building a pro bono department which serves the community. And I think that's Scarsdale's focus, growing into something bigger than me, bigger than where we are right now, but creating a working environment where people feel valued and appreciated, where they're listened to, but also where they're serving the community as well. So hopefully within 5 years, 5 years, I don't know where I'll be, but my goal is to create that within the next 2 years, and hopefully it'll be on a larger scale in 5 years.
Yeah, I have a feeling that in 5 years' time, there's going to be a lot of people that you've helped, and a lot of communities where you can see your traces throughout them, which is admirable. And I love the fact that you want to give back to people, because we take it for granted that we can fill in applications and we can get things. And you talk about non-molestation orders. And just for those that are listening or watching this, non-molestation orders are things we put in place to protect people that have been in situations of domestic violence, and that they're scared. So we put the courts are allowed to put these things in to protect them. And it's amazing how many people don't know that that's out there, and that they can apply for these and get some respite for what they're suffering. And I think it's so good to hear someone who wants to give back and teach people these things, because that's the ethos where I come from. Everything I do in mental health is to give people the chance to understand on what's going on around them and what's available to them, because we hide some of this stuff away, don't we? We make it so hard to get our hands on, and I don't understand why.
Absolutely, I totally agree with that. And I think, like, thinking, most people have said to me, look, your goals are not realistic, it's not going to happen. But I've not let that become an obstacle. I've actually used that to my advantage and said, okay, you know what? They say it's impossible, I will make it possible. And when you serve others, there's no greater joy than serving others. I was not trying to become successful. I was trying to create a different life for myself. And the business came as part of that journey. But then also I realized the amount of times that I've been able to create something bigger than me. I'm hoping by now that there are a number of people in my life that can actually say I have helped them and made a difference. But doing it on a larger scale, where it's not just me, where it's my team helping and supporting that, it'll be fantastic. It'll be amazing. So yeah, I do look forward to that part of Scarsdale's, and fingers crossed in the next 2 years, hopefully, and being a larger scale in the next 5 years.
I think everyone that you help is like dropping a stone into a pond, and the ripple effects are massive, and you don't realize how many lives you touch by helping that one person. That's why I love this whole chat that we've had. I like where you're going with it. I love that. And I can't wait to see more of what you do at Scarsdale and within your own journey, because I think it's an incredible journey, and I think you offer a lot of hope to a lot of people out there, certainly females who are looking about breaking into that male-dominated environment still. I think you offer a lot of hope and inspiration to them.
Thank you. I'm so grateful for your time today as well, for listening to me, and sharing your view as well.
That's what it's all about. I think humans have got to communicate. We all have opinions. We all have views. It's about getting along, building the communities that you're building, because that's how we help each other. And we're supposed to help each other, right? We're supposed to.
Absolutely.
I want to say thank you very, very much for coming on, Shazia. It's been a pleasure talking to you.
Oh, thank you. I really appreciate it. And sorry for the meltdown earlier. But no, I'm really, really grateful for you having me on your show. And I hope, I've helped to make a difference in your audience, your viewers, your listeners. I hope that something positive comes out of this podcast today.
I think it will, and I think your story will resonate with a lot of people. So I am very grateful for you coming on and sharing some of the stuff and sharing real emotions, because that's what, again, Hello You is all about, sharing these real emotions. And they were real, and this is part of life. We have to deal with these emotions. We don't shy away from them. Let's express them. But thank you.
Oh, thank you so much for having me on your show.
Thank you. So that brings to end another episode of Hello You. And if it has resonated with you, please download, listen, subscribe on all our channels. Thank you very much.
Thanks for being here, and thanks for being you. This was Hello You, where real conversations create real change. If today's episode moved you, challenged you, or simply made you feel seen, then share it, talk about it, and be part of the ripple. And remember, no matter where you are or what you're facing, you're never alone in this. We're building something together, and there's always room for you. I'm Dan Darwin, and until next time, be kind to your mind, be kind to yourself, and hello, you.